Hi, welcome to Module 2, Installing Oracle Linux. During this module, we will focus on how to install Oracle Linux in a virtual machine created on VirtualBox. I will guide you through the basic configuration options to successfully install it. Let's see how to do this. In the prior module, we created a new VM for this lab. Let's review the settings. We assigned 4 GB of memory to this VM. I assigned 2 CPUs to it, enabled the 3D acceleration. I virtually put the Linux 7.3 ISO file to this VM, so next time this machine starts, it will load the Linux installer. We created one disk with a size of 36 GB on this virtual machine. The network is a bridge adapter, so next time it boots, it will get an IP address from the DHCP server. And we have one shared folder. Let's start the VM. For this, let's click on the Start button here. Once the CD has been read, you will see that there are three different options in this menu. One is to install Oracle Linux, the next one is to test the media, which is the one that is selected, and the third one is the troubleshooting. Let's make sure to select the Install Oracle Linux 7.3. The test media and install option that is more useful when you are trying to install Oracle Linux on a physical box and you are using an actual CD mounted on the CD tray or DVD tray. Because this is an ISO file, it's a digital media. I don't think it's needed to run that test media. But if you have problems installing the Oracle Linux, then probably you will want to do the test media or just simply download the ISO file again. Okay, let's run the install Oracle Linux. Okay, once the Oracle Linux installer is loaded, the first thing you will see is the Welcome to Oracle Linux. And it is asking you for what's your preferred language for the installation process. We have to be careful here because this is not the language of the Oracle Linux. It's just the language you want to use during the installation process. If you select a different language, you'll see that the options change. Okay, once you have selected the language, let's click on the Continue button here. Now we are presented with the installation summary. Here, most of the options have already been selected. There are only quite a few that need some configuration from our side. Still, these predefined or pre-selected options may or may not be useful for you. For example, right now I'm on the Central Time Zone, and the one that is defined is the New York Time Zone, that is the East Time. So let's review these options and make the appropriate changes to them. Let's click on the date and time. Now you can select the time zone from this list, or you can just select the time zone based on the lines that are on this map. You have the option to use the network time, which will try to get the time from a network time server on the internet. You can fix the time, you can fix the date, etc. If everything is correct, just click Done. Now, the keyboard and the language support are correct in my case. So let's proceed now to the software section. We see that the software selection is the minimum install. Let's click here to see what options we have. So in the minimal install, we have just basic functionality. If this is a production-like server, probably you will want to go with a minimal install. It will just select the base software, and you will be responsible for adding any other software library that is needed for you to run that server. There are some bundled software here. You can select this, the infrastructure server or the file and print server, etc. In our case, or in my case, because I want to use or interact with a GUI, with a console, I will select the server with GUI. You can see that on the right-hand side of the screen, you have additional software that you may want to install depending on your needs. This software is optional. You may or may not want to install it or select any of these options. Once you are done selecting the base environment and any add-on that you want to add to this installation, just click on Done. Now you will see that the installation source and the software selection have changed to server with GUI. Now let's see where we're going to install the software. Let's click on the installation destination. For the software destination, we only have one disk, so there is nothing much that we can do here. The only thing that is important for me is I just want to be able to configure the partitioning. I just want to make sure that I have the right space assigned to the right file system. So instead of choosing the automatically configure partitioning, I will select the I will configure partitioning. Once you have selected, or if the automatically configure partitioning option works for you, then just click Done. In my case, I will use the configure partitioning. Because I selected the I will configure option, now I'm presented with the manual partitioning. I can go with the manual partitioning and just start adding file systems to my installation, or I will let Oracle just create the base file system structure. For that, I will click here to create them automatically. Because we are doing the manual partitioning, we need at least 3 partitions. One is the boot, the second one is the root partition, and we need a third one for the swap. You can see that the swap space is little bit less than 4 gigabytes. If you're doing the database installation later on, you will see that the installer tries to check the amount of swap space available on the system and match that to the amount of physical memory on this server. If there is a difference, if the swap space is not as big as the physical memory, it will raise a warning. Because 4 gigabytes is kind of a small amount of memory for a database server, we will want to have enough or a bigger swap space, just in case the processes that are running on this system needs to be pushed down to to disk. But that's a subject to be reviewed later on a different training. For this, let's make the swap space a little bit bigger. Let's try to assign 4 gigabytes to this system. You will see that it's not allowing us to do that. That is because there is not enough space available for this. So one way to fix this is by reducing the amount of the space assigned to the root file system. Let's make this change by reducing from 131 gigabytes to only 30 gigabytes. You will see that the available space now has been increased to 1.5 gigabytes. So now we have enough space to increase the swap. Let's make this change now. Let's click on a different file system. And now you can see that the space has been assigned to swap. Okay. Now, once you have reconfigured or configured the partitions, let's click on Done. The installer will show you a summary of all the changes that are pending to be done. You can review all these steps or just accept. And once you have finished reviewing these changes, if that is so, just accept the changes. The next thing we need to fix is the network and hostname. Let's click here. Now we can assign a new hostname. Let's say Oracle 12 Lab how2.zone. And once you have assigned the hostname, just click on the Apply button. You will see on the right-hand side that the hostname has been changed. And then you will want to enable the Ethernet card. Just click on this button and it will be enabled. It will request a new IP address to the server, the ACP server, and will be dynamically assigned to this new VM. Now, once you have finished with enabling the adapter, just click on Done. Now we have finished configuring the base settings for this VM. So we have reconfigured the date and time options. We have selected the right software for this installation. We have assigned or redefined the partitions for this VM, and we have enabled the network. We are now ready to proceed with installation. For that, let's click on Begin Installation. Now it's preparing the environment, all the disks, and it will proceed with installation of all the software options that we have selected before. And while this is being done, we can configure the root user account and we can proceed to create an administrative user. So for this, let's click on the root password option above. Just add a strong password to this. You can use uppercase, lowercase, and some numbers and special characters to make it stronger. Once you have added the password, just click on Done. And then let's create a new user. This will be an administrative user. Let's click on User Creation. Let's add a name. We have the username pre-selected. You can change this to meet your standards. Then click this checkbox, make this user administrator. This will allow this account to sudo to root. We'll see what this sudo means in terms of securing and administrating the environment. Then set the password for this new account. Once this is complete, just click on Done. The software installation takes approximately between 15 minutes to 45 minutes, and it mostly depends on how fast your computer is. So I'm gonna fast forward this till the end of the installation. Once the installation is complete, we just need to reboot the server so we can complete the configuration, the installation and configuration of the Linux OS. Let's do that now. Bounce on the server takes several seconds. I'm gonna fast forward this process. Once the server is back up, we need to finalize the licensing agreement. Let's click on License. You need to review the license and agree with their terms, and then click Accept, then Done. We can see that the network hostname is already connected, so we can just finish the configuration. And this completes the installation of Oracle Linux. During this module, we review the installation process of Oracle Linux 7.3. We talk about the disk partitioning options, sizing recommendations for the file systems, etc. This is probably one of the most important decision-making factors that any sysadmin needs to work on, as once the disks have been partitioned and Linux has been installed, it is very difficult to redefine the primary disk partitioning. We also show you how to enable the network card and how to set the host name during the installation process. The next module will see how to patch Oracle Linux and how to configure VirtualBox's guest additions.